Steel Curtain Network.
¡Por Jorgito! Going down! Najee Harris! DJ Watt!
TJ Watt, indeed. Welcome back to another Steelers postgame show. I'm Jeff Hartman, joined by Dave Schofield and Bryan Davis after the Steelers beat the Las Vegas Raiders 32-13 on the road in week 6. Let's bring in, actually, I'll tell you what, we're not going to go to Dave first. I'm sure Bryan is feeling this. Like, he's happy, but he's also really, really sad as a Raiders fan. So, Bryan, welcome to the show. Are you okay?
Yeah, there are no tears here in my little Steeler man cave here. No, come on. That felt so good, and it was really good to watch. Just a fun victory. And Dave and I were talking off mic, and we were saying it was so nice to be able to sit back and relax. And I felt like I relaxed a little earlier on in this game than most people.
All right, fair enough. Dave Schofield, what's up?
Yeah, like they said in the live chat, Pat had to change out of his Raiders jersey. But yeah, it's, you know what's really nice? Okay, this is a double whammy nice because it's a Steelers win. It's a Steelers decisive win. And it's not at 1:30 in the morning. This is a fantastic postgame show. I'm ready to roll.
I'm going to get to record Let's Ride tonight. Not that I have to wake up early in the morning and do it. This is fantastic. Yeah, I mean, for real. So the Steelers win. And I just, there's something about this fan base that sometimes irks me where people just want to complain about the minutia of the game when the team wins 32-13 and say, well, if it weren't for this, if it weren't for that. The Steelers win. They snap their 2-game losing streak, advance to 4-2, keep pace with the Ravens, who beat the Commanders earlier today. But let's start this show off like we always do, and that's with knee-jerk reactions. Dave, I'll let you go first this time. What was your knee-jerk reaction to the win?
Okay, well, first of all, it's not that the Steelers played a perfect game. It's not that they really had things going great in the first half. They just did. They did well enough, and then they just kind of kept at it. There's plenty of things that the Steelers still need to work on, penalties, things of that nature. But yet it was a win. It was a decisive win. Was it against a quality opponent? I hate to say this, but I don't think it was, despite what was said on your Let's Ride podcast on Friday. I said on Last Minute Thoughts, I feel that this was, especially based on who was available, this is probably one of the weaker rosters that the Steelers were going against this season. But you know what you should do against that? You don't have to play perfect football, but they didn't turn it over, but they also didn't play too ultra conservatively. The defense took advantage anytime that it could after starting to start a little bit sketchy on the first drive. Both sides started slow again, but the Steelers ultimately got it done, and they got it done by multiple scores. So to me, it's not like, oh, all of a sudden this team is unstoppable juggernaut. No, but they did what they needed to do against the team that they played today.
Fair enough. Bryan Davis, your knee-jerk reactions.
My knee-jerk reactions were, to quote Major League, who gives a blank? It's gone. Who gives a blank? They won. There's so many things, and that's not towards you, Dave. That's just towards the whole thing. A win is a win. This wasn't a 2 a.m. win. This was a 9 p.m. leave the bar early win. And this was a good win because like I was saying, I felt pretty much close to halftime that this game was in the bag because I liked the way things were progressing in this game. Raiders are not a good team. And I know that shocks a lot of you to say because of my Raiders super fandom.
Tell that to the Ravens. Oh,
yeah.
Sorry.
Well, they were not. They were terrible in this game. But I will love the Raiders just for the fact that they beat both the Browns and the Ravens this season. So their 2 wins have been against AFC North opponents, and that does not include the Pittsburgh Steelers. So that's a good thing. But the Raiders continue to shoot themselves in the foot. And finally, the Steelers, back-to-back games with 3 turnovers, forcing 3 turnovers. And this time they capitalized off of those turnovers mostly, and they won the game. And there's still a lot of questions, like Dave said, but the answer is a W, and 4-2 is so much better than 3-3.
Absolutely agree with both of everything you guys said. For me, I look at this game, and this is what you want to see a team do against a beat up and a less talented football team. So they had a ton of injuries, but they've had a ton of injuries the last 2 weeks against the Colts and then against the Cowboys, especially the Cowboys. They couldn't capitalize. Did offense move the ball the way that we all would have hoped? Like they just ran it down their throat? No, but Najee Harris had a hell of a game. And then on top of that, I think when you look at this win, you are on the road. It's not an easy place to play, although Steelers fans made it look that way. It was a hell of a performance by the fan base. I know Mike Tomlin gave them credit there at the start of his post-game press conference, but I think the Steelers did what they were supposed to do in this game. They escaped with a decisive victory. Doesn't matter how it happened, a decisive victory, 32-13. And I think this is a really, really good vibe right now because they couldn't stand the 2-game losing streak. It got get that bad taste out of your mouth. I do want to update a couple things. First and foremost, the injury to Zach Frazier. Mike Tomlin said after the game it was an ankle injury. And I want to say that in particular because on Twitter, I can't remember his name. Dr. Chow, that's who it is. Who's the doctor he used to be of the San Diego Chargers, and he's been a team doctor forever. He looked at the video and thought it was a knee. No, it's an ankle. Mike Tomlin reiterated that it's an ankle. It's being evaluated. That's all he said. Other than that, every other player that he mentioned, Minkah Fitzpatrick, Dante Jackson, who left with shoulder injuries, were able to return. So that Zach Frazier injury is going to be looming large. And he's a tough guy. Everyone knows he's a tough guy. But yeah. Any thoughts on Dave? Any thoughts on Frazier before we go to these super chats?
Well, I heard that he got taped up and wanted to go back out on the field, and they stopped him and took him to the locker room.
Yeah, he had his helmet.
So that just goes to tell you that what he, his mentality. But it's hard to say what's going to go forward because look, last week DeMonte KZ got hurt in pregame, played in the game, and then was out this week. So It really is going to come down to what they say on Tuesday. But of course, on Tuesday, most likely, unless it's really bad, Coach Sean will be like, I'm not exactly sure what's going on. I'll get an update after this, is probably what he'll say about him, unfortunately. But that one's going to hurt if the Steelers are going to be without Frazier. Just this offensive line just can't take a break or can't just get a break. But hopefully it's not one that's going to be keeping him out extended.
Yeah. Bryan, any thoughts on that?
Nah, you know what? We just hope that it works out well. I got to be honest with you, with all the excitement, I don't even know who came in his place.
Ryan McCollum.
Okay.
McCollum, yep.
And I thought the nameless face of Ryan McCollum, because since I didn't know, but I thought that there were no problems. They still were able to run the ball, a good bit after he went out towards the end of that game. So I know they didn't move it that much in the in that last series, but they weren't really trying anything major with that. So, I felt pretty good about it, but you want to have Zach Frazier in because right now I think he's your rookie of the year.
Yeah, absolutely. And so if you're watching live on YouTube, make sure you give us a like. We do appreciate it. If you're new to the show, give us a subscribe. We appreciate all the good vibes and also the super chats here. Let's get these up on the screen. Cass gives us $4.99, says played Mike Tomlin's brand of football today. Grateful for all the content. Win or lose, I look forward to the post-game show. Happy Victory Sunday. Yes. Thank you for the tip. Do appreciate it. It's always good to have a Victory Monday coming up too. Tom plays games. Tom Muir, he's been a long-time listener, gives us $4, $1 per W. The offense did enough to win only because the defense was on fire. They weren't on the opening drive, but after that, they buckled down. That's for sure. The opening drive was not good. Wilson Pava gives us $4.99, says big win. Still plenty of room to get better, but this was a get the momentum game. A get the momentum game before a tougher stretch. TJ is clearly MVP/defensive player of the year candidate. Yeah, I think that's for sure. And then with Aiden Hutchinson going down in terms of defensive player of the year, he was the leading sack getter in the NFL. We'll see how that impacts all that talk when we get down the stretch. Steelers fan Australia gives us $5 dingo and says the Fire Tomlin crowd must have their phones on charge or maybe their Wi-Fi doesn't work. Where are the comments? They're there. They're always there. They never go away.
Yep. It didn't take long.
S. Myers 3423 gives us $9.99. Dave, did you have that comment?
I have not found it yet.
Okay.
If there's another one in there.
Well, we appreciate the tip either way.
Oh, wait, I did.
You got it. Go ahead and bring it up.
Yes, I got it. Here you go.
So it might be the first blowout win we've had that I didn't feel good about. Those 2 roughing calls bailed us out. Hope Fields remains the starter. I gotta say, like, there are times where I'll say that wasn't a roughing call, it's a BS call. I thought both of those were justified. Do y'all disagree?
Yeah, well, the first one was obvious when the guy landed on him and then instantly tried to push back up off the ground, like, oh no, look, I didn't land on him, which just goes to show he did exactly what you can't do. And the second one, it was really late, and it wasn't Crosby, it was the other guy. They called it on Crosby. Both calls are roughing calls.
By the letter
if you
of the
don't
law.
like it, it's that you don't like the rule, not that you don't like the call. By the rule, they were. And if the Steelers would have done it, I would have said, like, you know what, that sucks. But unfortunately, that's the rule. It would have either way. That's kind of how I would have reacted to it. I hope.
Ryan, what do you want to say?
I saw something a little different on that play when the Raiders defender. I didn't think he was pushing up. I felt like he was taunting a little bit more, and I made a comment to the crowd at my house that I thought that's what got him flagged even more. I did think it was I think it was a marginal hit. I mean, I thought it was more of a gift than anything, but you're right. That's what they call these days. So I get it. But I thought I didn't think that he was pushing himself up as much. I felt like he was kind of in Justin Fields' face, but that's just the way I saw it.
Yeah.
I'm giving the follow-up just from the same person, just to say.
The calls being made were fine. It was that we put ourselves in a bad place, and the calls saved us when in a bad place.
It was the fact that we needed them.
Yeah, one of them negated an interception, for crying out loud. Yeah. So for sure. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. All right. Thanks for finding those, Dave. Let's go to Justin Gall. Gives us $9.99. Shout out to the special teams, consistently good all year, making critical plays in critical moments. People forget that this was their second block. They had a blocked field goal attempt. That was Isaiah Loudermilk against Dallas. This is a block punt by Jeremiah Moon. And can we just pay some homage to Chris Boswell for being Mr. Automatic? The dude was 4 for 4 with field goals. And I don't know about you all, but he's the only part of the Steelers that I feel confident unless it's like a 55 plus. And even then, I'm like, yeah, he's probably got it. I feel like we can start with special teams and just say they had a great game, good in coverage. I thought Waitman did a good job. Chris Boswell's automatic. Dave, any thoughts?
I'll be honest with you. I was doing the knee-jerk reaction article for Big Bro today. And every time they lined up for a field goal, I already had it in the article that it was good and what the new score was. It's just, it's what I did, because that's how I almost feel like if it wasn't for that, that's the play you can get up and go to the bathroom. So you don't have to watch the field goal attempt because you're not worried about it. So part of me is like, man, I don't want to take Boz for granted because he is really that kind of player for him. And unfortunately, the only way you really are going to see that otherwise is if something would happen to where you didn't have Boswell in the same manner. So just very grateful that he's there. It's just automatic, so much so that it almost doesn't even stand out.
Yeah, it's give him his flowers. That's what we're doing. Brian, any thoughts on special teams?
Yeah, he is that good. I thought Danny Smith's squad had a fantastic game. The thing about Boz, though, it's I feel like he's automatic too, and he has finally become the cream of the AFC crop because but right when Justin Tucker is finally declining and Boss has his throne, then you get a guy like Brandon Aubrey in Dallas that's hitting everything from 60 plus and who's doing some amazing things. But right now, Boz is your guy in the AFC, and you could definitely say that he's the king. As far as Mike Tomlin made a comment about the guys that jumped in with very little experience and got things done. Jeremiah Moon, number 49. I mean, he went in there. He just burst through there and got that punt. I just thought everything was really solid, and I sat back very early once again.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's get this show started with the most, in my opinion, it's not just the position. For some reason, it's the players that they've had the last few years. It's the quarterback. everyone wants to debate the quarterback. Did the quarterback play well? Did they not play well? Should they keep him? Should they change it? Let's talk about Justin Fields. Throwing the ball, he finishes 14 of 24 for 145 yards, 6-yard average, no touchdowns, no interceptions. The one that he did throw was negated by one of those penalties. He was sacked 3 times for 35 yards and had a 75.9 rating. I'm sorry. He also had, and Dave, help me out here. The lateral that was ruled a lateral, not a forward pass. Does that get ruled a fumble?
Should have been ruled a fumble, but I bet you anything it was ruled a fumble on Jalen Warren, probably.
I'm trying to see here if they have.
Yeah.
Fumbles.
I mean, they have one fumble from Justin Fields. And Jalen Warren with the recovery. So,
all right. So then another fumble credited to his name. It doesn't get taken as a turnover, but still, he had 11 carries for 59 yards for a 5.4 average, had 2 rushing touchdowns and a long of 18 yards. All right, this is a tough one to evaluate. Dave, what do you think about the quarterback?
Well, there were some plays early in the game where Justin Fields had open guys. Seemed like I was constantly seeing on X that it was Calvin Austin that was open and Justin Fields wasn't seeing him. Maybe it's a stature thing. I don't know, but man, they got down there the one time. It was like 3 straight plays of throwing it over top of guys. So that's something that you want to see better, that the more accuracy there and better judging what's open and things of that nature. I mean, I think the all 22 tape will probably show that a little bit better. Hopefully we'll get a breakdown of that from Coach KT Smith this week of, where Fields might not have made the best read on some of those. And like I said, the accuracy was off, but then there was some of those. I mean, man, the one to Calvin Austin, he just put that right on him. That was on a like 3rd and long and converted it. So it was kind of a feast or famine with that. But the biggest thing with Justin Fields that he adds to the Steelers offense is that running dynamic threat potential and coming through with it in that regard. So not the best day passing, pretty good day running, and got the job done. And I do think the passing got better as the game went on.
Okay. That's fair. Brian?
Is this the recipe that John Harbaugh and the Ravens have been enjoying since 2018 when Lamar Jackson started to get going? Lamar Jackson still is not an amazing passer, but he gets things done here and there. Why am I talking about Lamar Jackson? Because I feel like Justin Fields, that big intangible, is knowing how to bail himself out. But the thing is, he's making less and less mistakes. Now, it's so glad that here's the thing. It's hard to forget that ugly interception, even though it was not an interception, because that was rough. When the chips are down and it's 3rd and 12, are we as fans going to be confident in a 3rd and 12 with Justin Fields? I don't know. But right now, seems to be working, and this is a team that put up 32 points. The defense helped put them in position real well for a few of them, defense and special teams, but I still thought Justin Fields managed the game well. And when you get a running game going, Justin Fields doesn't have to be the passer that the guy in Buffalo needs to be.
Josh,
Allen. Why did I not know Josh Allen? He doesn't have to be Patrick Mahomes. He just has to be Justin Fields. And right now, this Justin Fields is 4-2, and it's working.
Yeah. It's tough because Justin Fields would say that this was not a perfect game. This was not a clean game. But I think right now, the one reason, because the big question everyone's asking is, when, if ever, are they going to go to Russell Wilson? And I saw a lot of people on social media that said Justin Fields doesn't do the 3-step, 5-step drop ball. The ball's coming out as his back foot hits the turf. And I said, well, I don't know if you've watched Russell Wilson recently, but he doesn't do that either. That's not his style either. And the one thing that Russell Wilson might be more accurate with the football. He holds on to the ball a lot, and he doesn't have the escapability component that Justin Fields has. This is not going to be an easy decision for the Steelers at this time. And until he starts to lose a lot of games and the play just really gets bad, I don't see them changing anytime soon. Dave, do you agree or disagree with that?
Yeah. Also, I mean, a lot of the problems with the offense also comes to some inconsistencies with the blocking and the offensive line. And I mean, my goodness, when it's 3rd and long and they send a ton of pass rushers and Fields just has to throw it out there really fast, that's what you got to do. I also wanted to say that the last sack that Fields gave up was actually a pretty smart sack. Don't try to force it. I mean, when they're coming at you like crazy, don't try to force it into the end zone to make something happen. Just take the field goal and with when you're up that much anyway and get off the field. I actually thought that was smarter to just take the sack there than even try to make sure you could even fling it out of the back of the end zone, because I've seen that go not in a good way as well. So but you're right about, it's not that, I mean, Justin Fields kind of is a little bit of what we thought Steelers fans were going to get from him. There's still a lot of things that he needs to work out. But the question is, can he continue to work those out and improve? He's still a young player. He's not a finished product by any means. And if he is, then you've got some issues there that you don't want to worry about being a finished product. He's just got to continue on with that. So to me, as long as it's going in the right direction, he's not, other than the one that luckily came back, it's not like he's a turnover machine. And that's probably the biggest thing that the Steelers are looking for right now.
Well, Dave, before I throw it to Brian, I want to ask you a quick question. Okay. Do you think Justin Fields is continuing to improve?
That is a really good question. I think there are some things that he's improved on, but at the same time, there are some things that I felt like he was doing better the first few weeks of the season that we're seeing not be as well, but it might have been the way the Steelers were protecting him. I'm one that's saying, hey, go for it, be aggressive, open it up, play some exciting football, things of that nature. But at the same time, maybe it's their understanding the limitations of the quarterback, and they're not wanting to put him in situations where some things that are not good will force some bad habits and things to come back. I'm not the best evaluator of quarterback play. I'll openly admit that, but to me, I don't see Justin Fields regressing, and I don't agree with the people that as soon as he makes one bad throw, see, I told you back in the spring the Steelers shouldn't have gone after him. They need to get him off the field. I mean, come on, people. That's not having a knee-jerk reaction to a couple bad throws that weren't even in it's not like you went up there and threw 3 picks and think that you're going to make a switch in game is not going to improve your team, let alone your quarterback position for the rest of the season.
Yeah, that's absolutely. Brian, I'll ask you the same question about Justin Fields after you give your take on if they should switch to Russell Wilson anytime soon. But I want to ask you whether you think that Justin Fields is improving still heading into week 7 now.
I think he's improving his confidence. And I think when that confidence goes up, we noticed that just in week 1, he got more confident as he went. So I'm saying here, yeah, he improves within each game. And every time that he realizes that he's got to take off, he knows what he's doing. He's protecting the ball so much better. I mean, I know this game he didn't have any mishaps with any snaps. He held onto the ball well. There's a few things that make me scratch my head. It's getting the ball off. He could have been called 3 times for delay a game. I know he got nailed once, but twice he got twice for delay.
Both on 3rd downs.
All right. So yeah, then it's a 3rd time that I thought he could have got nailed for it. And I thought last week he got away with 1 or 2 as well. So that I'd like to see him get a little better. And just knowing there are times that I love the fact that he's throwing the ball, but when he got away with one the last couple of weeks, but when he's over the line of scrimmage, just know where you are and take off. But that was a beautiful play. It was just way too far downfield to go ahead and get away with it to Muth. But I don't think that he's regressing. I think that he's slowly coming along. And right now, slowly is 4-2, and that's not a bad pace. I mean, 4-2, 2 games over 500, playing at a 750 clip, anybody's going to take at this point. So yeah, I'm really happy with that, because he never had an opportunity to do that in Chicago. As far as going to Russell Wilson right now, you can't. It's got to be bad for them to go to Russell Wilson, and it's not bad.
No. Brian, this is going to be for you. Sean Manahan gives us $5. Says Justin Fields reminds me of Cordell Stewart, 1997. You agree or disagree?
In a way, yeah. However, if you look back in 1997, Cordell's first half of every game was incredibly horrible. It was so bad, and then he came alive in the second half. It was a tale of two halves almost every single week, but they went to the AFC Championship game that year. I feel like, believe it or not, I feel like Fields is a little more polished. And one thing that I always had to say about Cordell Stewart, if he had better peripheral vision, he would be a great quarterback. And he did not have the peripheral vision. So everybody talks about if Cordell Stewart was in the league now, how he would be greater than Lamar Jackson. I would say Lamar Jackson has better peripheral vision as far as that goes, but Cordell Stewart would be a Pro Bowl, all-pro player right now.
All right, let's go to Justin Gall. Gives us $9.99. Says, are we trusting Justin Fields to launch the ball down the field 40, 50, 60 yards on 3rd and long? We used to let Ben launch the ball, and if it was picked, it was just as good as a punt. I don't know.
Has he had time to throw it 40, 50, or 60 yards downfield?
That's a good point, Dave. Has he had time? But two, who was Ben throwing it to? So go back in Ben's career. Like, look at some of the receivers that he would have had as options. And who would Justin Fields be throwing it to? There's only one guy that you would say, I trust you to go out there and win a jump ball. And even that guy dropped some passes today, and that's George Pickens. So I don't think that Justin Fields necessarily has the time, like Dave mentioned. I also don't think he has the targets in that situation. So would I like to see them be more aggressive on those 3rd and longs? Yeah, they've shown to the aggressive nature with Justin Fields at the end of halves and things like that. I don't know why they don't feel that they can have that same type of nature with that. I mean, maybe Arthur Smith's aggression or aggressive play calling is the reverse flea flicker that ended up being a loss of 18 yards or something like that. When the team can't run a flipping screen pass, he wants to dial up the double reverse flea flicker. I'm not a fan of the call. We'll just put it that way. All right, let's go here to Vincent. He gives us $2. He said, do they need another weapon for Fields to improve? It's a good question. Dave, quick answer. What do you think?
Wouldn't hurt.
No, it wouldn't. What about you, Brian? What do you think? Here we are.
Sorry, fellas. Double dipping. Yeah, I kind of feel like they do need another weapon. And I kind of feel like that's going to happen.
We'll see.
We shall see. Sorry, guys. Brian's trying to be on both the Steelers and Raiders post-game show at the same time.
I am not.
He is probably doing work, but that's not.
I know. He is. He's working hard for Steel Curtain Network.
Let's go to someone that I was really happy this guy had a hell of a game because he gets crapped on constantly. And that's Najee Harris. You know, the guy was drafted in the 1st round. Everyone was pissed off. Well, let's talk about the Steelers rushing game in its totality. Steelers rushed the ball 35 times, 183 yards, 5.2 yard average, 3 rushing touchdowns, and a long of 36. Najee Harris, 14 carries, 106 yards, a 7.6 yard average, a touchdown, and that one was a 36 long scamper with a beautiful finish diving to the end zone. Other than Justin Fields, 59 yards, which we talked about, Jonathan Ward had 3 carries for 13 yards. Jaylen Warren came back. They could not get him in space at all. 6 for 7, 6 yards or 6 carry, 7 yards, and Aaron Champlin, 1 carry, -2 yards. Guys, let's talk about the running game, mainly Najee Harris. Dave, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, they came out and established it pretty early. I mean, that's what was so great about the Steelers to start the game on their very first drive. What do you know? They got a first down on back-to-back plays. Both of them to Najee Harris. One was a run, one was a screen. But then they kind of went away from handing it to Najee going up. I mean, seems like get him going in there behind the center and guards, and he can really rip up in there. And I despise those toss sweeps to him, but then my goodness, he takes one to the house. It is definitely a feast or famine play with a lot of famine and then the occasional feast. They had another decent one in there for decent gain, and then plenty of them that lost yardage, including ones to Jaylen Warren. But I just felt like Najee Harris early on, man, he was going harder than anybody else out there, especially in the first half, and it paid off for him. With even more in the second half. So what'd you say? You had 106 yards?
Let me double check.
Yeah.
Yes,
So,
106, a 7.6 average. Everyone always complains about his average. He had a 7.6 yard average.
So he had 14 carries. So he had 7 carries in the first half for 31 yards, 4.4 average. Not bad. And then came back with 7 carries for 75 yards with a 10.7 average in the second half.
Yeah.
So they didn't overburden him. They didn't overwhelm. I mean, 14 carries, that's not all that much. But to me, I'll have to look. I don't know that he's had over 100 yards on fewer carries ever in his NFL career.
Probably not. I would venture to say no. I've never seen him close to a 7.6 yard average per carry ever. So it was a good game by Naj. Brian, what was your thought on the running game?
And here, don't say that 36 yards defined him in this game, because I'm going to bring back an old favorite that we used to talk about receivers in Pittsburgh. And Jeff and Dave don't know where I'm going with, but it used to be combat catch. But Najee Harris had combat runs today. He should have been tackled a few times. There was a beast mode type play that he was just mauling people and got a first down early on in the first quarter. Then there was that play where he broke through for 36 yards, but he had to break a lot of tackles too. So it was just absolutely amazing to watch him maul, and where he was not getting holes as much as making holes and making plays. This was just a great performance out of combat Najee Harris. As far as the rest of the running game, Jaylen Warren's got to knock some rust off. Jonathan Ward did what he was supposed to do in that role. That's fine. They missed Cordero Patterson, but really this was the Najee show. And when you have a quarterback that could run for 50 some yards, like you said, 57, that's definitely a help. This is not a one-dimensional offense anymore.
Yeah, 59 for Justin Fields. So Steelers have a good day.
And remember, he took 2 knees to finish it out. So he was over 60 and then lost 2 yards.
Oh, and one more thing about Najee, that -4 that he got early on, that wasn't non-Najee, because he was mauled as soon as he touched the football. There was not even a move to make. He got the ball, looked up, and got crushed.
There were a lot of plays that were dead to rights because the Raiders either saw a tell, they had the perfect blitz assignment in there, the Steelers botched their assignments. It could have been a combination of it. There were a lot of plays that were dead to rights, and kudos to the Raiders defense on those plays for making the plays. Is there anything more deflating, though, than those runs where Najee Harris runs into a crowd and then the crowd just keeps moving and moving, and it's like 10 yards later they finally get him to the ground?
Did he have one where he broke a couple tackles? Didn't he kind of bobble the ball in the middle of the run and then drug people a little bit beyond that?
Yeah, I actually think, now that you bring that up, just thinking about his game, Najee Harris, that is, I think that he should have had 2 touchdowns. I think they got screwed. I don't think he was down, which equated in the 4th down run by Justin Fields when the Steelers went for it. I don't think his knee was down, and they didn't challenge it because it was inside. Was that inside 2 minutes? No, that wasn't at the end of the first half.
Well, honestly, that wasn't at the goal line. That was for a first down. That wasn't an
Okay.
and goal situation.
You're right.
And,
You're right.
and I thought I saw his knee go down in there in the pile, but I couldn't tell where the ball was.
Yeah,
So
that's probably a safe no challenge there. Let's go to Isaac Aguilera. Gives us $5. Has finally made it out of the stadium. What a win! I'm now 2-0 when attending Steelers games. Isaac, you should go to more Steelers games, then, man. Thank you for the tip. He's a longtime listener as well. A lot of these people have been around since the Blog Talk Radio days. So thank you, Isaac. We do appreciate it. All right, let's talk about the passing game, mainly the pass catchers. Not a banner day for these individuals. 145 total receiving yards on 14 catches for a 10.4 average, no touchdowns. George Pickens leads the way, 3 catches for 53 yards. Calvin Austin, 2 catches for 36 yards. And by the way, George Pickens was targeted 8 times in this game. Najee Harris had 2 catches for 16. Same with Pat Freiermuth. Jaylen Warren, 3 for 11. Darnell Washington, 1 for 9. Connor Hayward, 1 for 4. Dave, what do you think about the pass catchers?
The pass catchers, I don't have any complaints. I mean, my goodness, I just realized Van Jefferson wasn't even targeted, was he?
No. And neither
Roman Wilson was only out there
Neither
for
was
a few
Roman
snaps.
Wilson.
Yeah, it seemed like Calvin Austin was the guy that was getting open, but wasn't always getting the ball. The passing game was not clicking today. Honestly, it really wasn't. I mean, the numbers say that, and your eyeballs should say the same thing. But the team leaned on defense and running the ball, but it's not just running the ball. It's completely different when you have your passing threat also as a running threat, that every pass play can instantly turn into a run play. It's a whole different dynamic. So honestly, the best part of the passing game was actually running out of it at times. Some of those yards were just, you had the token 31-yard pass when the Steelers didn't need to be passing the ball for George Pickens. He had another. To me, I thought he dropped that touchdown. I thought he should have caught that one. That was like a play or two later after that one. So Pickens wasn't a problem, but he also didn't stand out in a very great way, which was a little bit concerning. But like I said, things just weren't completely clicking, especially with the accuracy of the passes, especially the first half. So it was really a less than meh passing and receiving performance. But it was on a day that the Steelers were doing well otherwise, that they didn't have to lean on it. If this was one of those games where they were going to have to pass their way into a victory, they probably weren't going to be able to get it done.
Yeah, fair enough. Brian, thoughts on the pass catchers?
I didn't think George Pickens came back from last game's pouting performance and from last game's subpar performance in the manner that he should have. He definitely had 2 egregious drops in this game. I still believe in number 14. I think he's going to be fine. I'd love to see them get a hold of Calvin Austin III down the middle a whole lot more. If they could make that a priority to try to get it to him, try to get to Pat Freiermuth a little bit more as well. I still think they have the makings of something. I don't think Roman Wilson is your answer because he has not gotten on this train yet. This wide receiver room needs some help. It still does. And the guys there are not doing it in the manner that they should, but it is still a win.
Yeah, like I said, this was not a banner day for the pass catchers, but when your team is running the ball the way that the Steelers did, they didn't really need to have a banner day passing. You did hope for a couple of those completions, especially to George Pickens to come through. I didn't necessarily love the fact that anyone else, maybe you all disagree with this, and that's fine if you do. Anyone else feel like the second to last drive was to, I guess, I don't want to say it, I'll say it, appease George Pickens. He hadn't really seen the ball a lot. They go deep. They didn't have to go deep. That's very anti-Tomlin-like for the Steelers to have a 2-score lead. They're not just trying to grind out the clock. Instead, they're passing the ball down the field. And you could definitely tell they were looking to get Pickens the football. I don't know. That was odd for me. But other than that, I just thought that it was an average day for the pass catchers all around.
Yeah, well, and you say that, but honestly, yeah, it was more to appease George Pickens. But you know what I like? I like that now that the Steelers were oh, they're a team that they're just definitely going to do this if they have a lead. I don't know that they'll, they're a team that doesn't take a shot. You know what? They showed that they took a shot when you didn't expect them to. So at least you put that out there on tape somewhere.
Yeah, that's true. All right, let's finish this up quickly with the offensive line. Banged up again. They lose another starter. We don't know the significance of Zach Frazier's injury at the moment. So he leaves. Ryan McCullum comes in. And it seems like if Zach Frazier misses any time, they would have another rotational piece that's out. And so that would be an incredible number of different offensive line pieces. But Dave, what did you think about the offensive line in this game in both pass pro and run blocking?
Well, I felt whenever McCullum came in for Frazier to start, you saw a definite difference in trying to run up the middle at first. But McCullum then settled in and did fine after that. It was definitely a change, but then settled in some. It was a lot of hit or miss. I mean, my goodness, Dan Moore Jr. completely whiffed on that one and had a real. Did it end up being a sack or was it blew up a play? I know that.
Wasn't that the one where he barely got it away? Like he escaped pressure
that might have been that one. Yeah. But then there was other times when it was like, my goodness, look at this protection. So to be the biggest thing with the offensive line, I've got to say, is just inconsistency. It's just inconsistent. Sometimes they're there and they're just opening things up great. And sometimes it's like, oh my goodness, Najee Harris has to break 4 tackles in the backfield just to get back to the line of scrimmage. They don't block that toss sweep overly well. And then all of a sudden they bust one for a 35-yard touchdown. I'd have to go back and look into see if that was more of a block, something missed by the Raiders, or just a great play by Najee. It could be any of those things. I don't know. So there's just certain things and certain times where the offensive liner is like, yeah, that's what you're looking for. And then there's times that you're like, oh man. And like, honestly, those holds on Max Crosby, they were holds. And people are like, but those are the same kind of things that happened with TJ Watt. That first one on Crosby that they called, Crosby didn't rip. He was just trying to power past him. And that's why the arm being across him like that results in a hold. If he does the rip move like TJ Watt does most of the time, then you're allowed to keep your hand over there. So it was just, we'll get to it. Max Crosby's really good. He's hard to block. He really is. So I'm not like, I'm sorry. People want to talk about all these great defenders. To me, Max Crosby is a whole different level than a Myles Garrett. He's just that much better. He's the guy that pushes TJ Watt for being one of the best in the league, in my opinion. To me, he's the closest equivalent you have to TJ Watt in the NFL. I really think he's a really good player and did his thing. So we knew that the offensive line had their hands full. Man, good thing there was no Christian Wilkins or anything in this game, just because the offensive line just show it to me, play in and play out is really what I'm looking for with anything.
All right, Brian, thoughts on the offensive line?
Yeah, I kind of thought they were okay. But it is amazing, the beginning of that game and throughout that game until Frazier went down, how it looks when you've got 2 weeks of the same line and you have some cohesiveness. And they might not have that again next week with Frazier gone. I think Frazier right now is their best offensive lineman, and he's a rookie. And I mean, Sayamalu's not back all the way. I think Sayamalu will be. I think he is that damn good, but I just don't think that he is back all the way. I think he's still dusting some rust off. But yeah, I that whiff with Moore just made me sick. But then Dave said some great things there. Look, we make the jokes about me being a Raiders fan, a super fan. I am a huge fan of Max Crosby. And I think
I'd love to see him in black and gold. It would be so great.
Gosh.
Oh my goodness.
He's a personality. He's fantastic. He's a game wrecker, right? Like TJ Watt. I like the fact that both of them complement each other all the time when they're talking about one another. And they're like, Max Crosby was talking this week. He's like, look, I'm not going against TJ Watt, on on the football field, but he's there, and I've got to respect everything that he's done, the 100 sacks, all of this. I think you're seeing pretty much two of the best players in the game right now on defense, and I really loved watching them both play. But in the end, when I saw 98 coming around, I'm like, stop that guy. Just stop that guy. I was not rooting for him, but he is just so dynamic to watch. But TJ, well, we'll talk about TJ in a little bit.
Yeah, of course we will. Of course we will. All right, we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back from that break, if you're watching live on any platform, we're not going anywhere. We're going to talk all things defense. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. All right, Steeler fans, we're back. Thank you for being patient. We need to talk about the defense as we've already covered the special teams and the offense. Let's get this super chat up here. York Steel gives us $9.99. Said there seems to be inconsistency with how holding is called, and TJ does not get those calls, but they need to play better. Yeah, like Dave mentioned, it depends a lot on the move that the defender is doing, how the official
it's a rule that people don't realize. Yeah.
If there's, excuse me, if there's anything that I feel TJ Watt's gotten screwed on this year, holding always happens. I feel like guys are teeing off on his face. They're getting their hands up into his face mask all the time. And that's an issue because that's a clear-cut penalty. Like there's times his helmet's almost getting ripped off. It's like, well, what the heck? How's that happening? It's because
I mean, how many times do you see him almost wrapped up around the waist with the offensive guy in front of him as he's getting
going,
passed?
hello.
You've seen that a couple times, and it doesn't get called. But I think it's just because of those various things. Everything that you think is a hold on TJ is not a hold, but there are plenty of them that just aren't called as well.
Absolutely. All right, Chris T. Hey, Chris Gillis, he's a member of the Steel Curtain Network team, writes for the website. Yeah. We appreciate his work. Gives us $2. His shout out to Jackson. He's talking about Dante Jackson and Elliott. He's talking about Deshaun Elliott. Huge additions. Couldn't agree more. I thought Deshaun
what
Elliott.
A nice tackle on that 3rd and short when they caught it and he still brought him down. That was early. That was a big play early.
Deshaun Elliott has been the most pleasant surprise for me this entire season. He was, and everyone kind of laughed at him because when he stood up there in front of the media and they signed him as a free agent, they said, why did you choose Pittsburgh? And he turned around and pointed at the that wallpaper they have there with the Steelers logo and probably like some bank or something. He said, because of that, like the Steeler logo. He's like, that's why I came here. And then it's like, we've all heard the Mitch Trubisky, no one loves football more than me and all this crap. And dude, that guy is balling out right now. And Dante Jackson, he's getting his hands on footballs. Can't complain about that. What does he have? 2 interceptions? No, 3, because he had one against Dallas. He had one in week 1 against Atlanta. Yeah. So he has 3.
Almost had another one today.
Yeah.
That would have been
a pick six.
That was a pick 6 if he brings that one in. Yeah.
So those 2 guys especially have been phenomenal. Let's go to Tyler W. Gives us $5. His TJ Watt had a takeover game without a sack.
Yeah.
Cam is having a vintage performance. Dante Jackson almost had a 2-pick performance. Big bounce back for the defense. And that was $5. Thank you, Tyler. Appreciate it. And I got to be honest, I have not been as angry as I was about the defense then after the first drive. I was fuming. You could ask my kids who were down here. And I'm like, this is ridiculous. Like they just let the Raiders, and what an opening script, by the way, beautiful opening script for the Raiders. They just did whatever they wanted. They didn't have a 3rd down the entire drive. I said, is this what it's going to be? And it wasn't. Thank God it wasn't, but it wasn't. So let's start off talking about the man, the myth, the legend, Trent Jordan Watt. Let's talk about him individually because he 5 tackles, 5 solo, 2 tackles for loss, 2 forced fumbles, one of them in the red zone, huge plays. Guys, is there anything to say about TJ Watt that hasn't already been said, Dave?
No, I'll just say what I say a lot of time. He is a game plan changer. You have to change your game plan over if TJ Watt's going to be on the field versus if he's not.
Yeah. Brian, thoughts on Trent Jordan?
Jeff, get your pencil out and your paper and write this down because this is the t-shirt idea. Call the distributor tomorrow. Remember back in the late 80s, and I know you were young, but in the 90s, there was a video game. It was called Mike Tyson's Punch-Out.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
TJ Watt's Punch-Out. He punched balls today and then knockout punches when he was hitting that ball. And they were calculated and they were beautiful. I would love to see that 8-bit TJ Watt on a t-shirt punching a ball out. and having the font TJ Watt's Punch Out. So go ahead, and I expect to see a proof in my email tomorrow morning, Jeff.
Wow, there's a lot of copyright stuff to dig through there.
Copyright.
That's the first thing I thought. I was like,
Well, I immediately went to the video game because I loved that video game. Like, I mean, he's definitely not King Hippo. I mean, are we talking about all the different people to go against? But now TJ Watt, I mean, just again, and what Tyler said, he didn't have a sack. So this isn't just, and I hope that people realize that the way that I think most valuable player, defensive player of the year are signified are not by one single statistic. It's not just by who has the most sacks. It's how do they impact the games? Look at week 1. What did he have? 1 sack against Kirk Cousins in Atlanta? That was it, right? But he totally took over that game. Like totally took over that game. So it's just interesting. Let's get some super chats here. People are giving us money. Appreciate it. Afton Forad gives us $2. Says, will they work Edmonds into the defensive plan? I think they did. And he actually came in for Minkah Fitzpatrick when he left for a few plays with the shoulder.
And you didn't notice it.
With KZ out, I had to say, who the hell's 38? Oh, that's Terrell Edmonds. I forgot. Yeah. So I think they are going to start using Edmonds in a variety of ways to answer your question. Sean Manahan gives us $5. Says, I was also fuming over the defense after the first drive. Everyone was getting mad at me, but they did turn it around. I wasn't alone then. That's good. Faceless Man gives us $4.99 and says, I'll take the W, but what is wrong with Tomlin's time management? Take the damn time out instead of delay a game. I don't want to hear about anyone else for defensive player of the year.
Can I ask you a question, Jeff?
Yeah.
What's the significant difference between 3rd and 23 and 3rd and 28?
When you're going to probably kick a field goal both ways? Is that what you mean?
No, I mean, you're probably going to end up having to punt.
Oh, there isn't to me, not with the.
Why waste the time out for that? That was one of the two. Why waste the time out to say, oh, no, what they really need to do? Yes, they need to be more efficient in the huddle. They need to be more efficient at the line, and they need to be more efficient getting the play in. And I know some people were saying earlier in the live chat, might have even been right around when we started, about what is it with the refs holding up everything at the line? If you substitute, they have to allow the defense to counter that substitute and make you wait from snapping the ball. That was from something. I don't know if that ever came into play with either of those, but it's a thing that does, the process needs to get going a little bit better. And the Steelers should know more who that's on. But my goodness, why waste a timeout to save 5 yards when it's already 3rd and 23?
All right, well, let's get through the defense here because we're running long, and I apologize for that, but there's a lot to talk about and unpack. Let's talk about Aiden O'Connell's stat line. He was 27 of 40 for 227 yards. A lot of those came in garbage time. 5.7 yard average, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, was sacked only once for a rating of 79.9. Let's also throw in their receivers. Brock Bowers, tight end, rookie, 10 targets, 9 catches, 71 yards. DJ Turner, 2 catches for 37. Alexander Madison, 5 catches for 32. And then Alexander Bachman, 31. Harrison Bryant, 24 yards. Wilkerson, 18. And Abdullah, 14. What did y'all think of the pass defense here? Dave, go let you start.
Once again, there was too many times where some players got lost. The first touchdown was set up by a pass to the running back where he was like he comes out of the backfield after most likely being in there to help on TJ Watt, and he sneaks out there with nobody on him. The touchdown that got called back for illegal man downfield, which was kind of close, but then again, did they even get that snap off before the end of the quarter? It was another one of those where after time, someone leaked out of the backfield and no one picked him up. It still seems like some of those things are getting by. And the Steelers defense should know that they're going to keep an eligible receiver in to help with DJ Watt, but then you've got to be able to make sure you're covering that receiver once their job with TJ Watt does the inevitable and gets past it. That's just something you've got to do. I don't know if it's communication. I don't know if it's scheme. There were times where there were breakdowns, but then there were also other times. I mean, my goodness, you saw Joey Porter get a catch on him one time. He was all over the dude and almost ripped the ball out. That was the one when Landon Roberts came flying down the field and coulda, woulda, shoulda had a penalty called on him, although they didn't throw it. I wouldn't be shocked if that's a fine. But in all, it's kind of like the offensive line. They had some really great moments, and then they also had some times that they're like, come on, guys, you got to keep it together every time.
Yeah. Brian, what was your take on the pass defense?
I thought it was good enough. I was really worried early. I feel like Brock Bowers made most of his catches early on, and I think they found a way to neutralize him later on in that game, and I think that made a big difference in this game. But when you go ahead, almost have 2 interceptions, I thought some of those receptions there was blanket coverage early. I thought the first reception, Brock Bowers was really, it reminded me of the one that Pittman made very early in the Colts game, where I thought they were blanketed and he made a catch in double coverage. And that's exactly what happened with Bowers on, I believe it was that first or second reception. So I kind of feel like, they gave up some plays. Those guys are definitely varsity on the other end, even though it's the Raiders. But I thought, I think it's Jeff that said it, the game plan was amazing coming out for the Raiders. But after that first possession, I feel like they adjusted quickly. So I was actually pleased a little bit more than most.
Yeah, I think, and someone in the live chat said wasn't the best quarterback or wide receiver crew to really gauge. I think next week against the Jets with Aaron Rodgers, although he's not playing great football, Garrett Wilson, Lazard, that's going to be a much tougher test for this pass defense. We'll see. I did think the Steelers were going to get home a little bit more. I know Cam Hayward had the only sack of the game. I thought that was those interior guys that would do a lot better, but nonetheless, they only end up with 1 sack. They did have 3 quarterback hits. That's it on Aiden O'Connell. Now for the rush defense, they had Alexander Madison had 33 yards on 14 carries. A lot of that probably came on that first drive. Amir Abdullah, 24 yards on 4 carries. And Dylan, is it Laub or Lobby? I don't know how to say that name. Brian, how do you say that name?
That's the New Hampshire guy that got it punched out on him.
Yeah, 1 carry. What is it?
It's Lauby.
1 carry, 0 yards, 1 fumble. Tough. That's a tough stat line for him. But what did you think about the rush defense here, Dave?
I felt that outside of that first drive, that was really a catalyst for a lot of things. That the rush defense really, really did crack down. What'd you say the total yards was?
Total
57 yards rushing.
57 total.
32 of the 57 were in the first quarter.
I believe it.
So that just meant that there was 25 rushing yards over the final 3 quarters of the game. So sorry, I don't have it. I can't do a quick filter by drive. I can only do it by quarter. But that was, they really locked down the run after that.
Yeah. Brian, thoughts on the rush defense?
I thought that they had players going sideline to sideline a whole lot better as of late, but in this game, definitely. I thought once they adjusted, like you and Dave have said, you throw out that first drive, then this is a completely different stat line game. And this is the grades for the defense are so much better. You can't throw it out. That's fine. It doesn't matter. That was just a catalyst to get this defense, on point. I thought they had I thought the run defense was stellar. I believed in it after that first drive. I will say this, guys like a Landon Roberts, he isn't a sideline to sideline guy, but he is eating guys up. So is Benton. So is Hayward, of course. But the sideline to sideline guys that are really, that if you watch out wide, it seems like Peyton Wilson and Patrick Queen are getting it done sideline to sideline. A lot of people want to say that Patrick Queen's a waste of money, and I really like what he's doing, especially it's tough to patrol sideline to sideline, and I think he's doing a lot of dirty work, and I think Peyton Wilson is becoming that guy as well.
Yeah, I wanted to give a shout out to Patrick Queen. He led the Steelers in tackles, 13 total tackles, 6 solo, a tackle for loss, and for the first time since the Steelers acquired him via free agency, he was noticeable. Like more than one occasion. You saw him You mentioned sideline to sideline, Brian. He was making plays. Peyton Wilson was making plays. They used Landon Roberts a little bit more than they had been early in the game. Peyton Wilson seemed to come in and fill in as the game progressed. I thought that Patrick Queen had a good game. I thought it was his best game as a Steeler so far. But I want to give you guys an option to talk about anything defense related before we do our final thoughts. So, Dave, anything else about the defense you want to bring up?
Yeah, well, it's just concerning, kind of like the offense. Why aren't you prepared with what you're doing at the very beginning? No, you can't handle the scripted plays, scripted specifically against you. Then you set away and realize what they want to do and stop it. It's not like they were going up against one of the best teams in the NFL and they let them march right down the field. But then after that, I mean, they really turned around. Think of this. Out of all the possessions that the Raiders had, they had 3 drives where they had 70 yards of offense. 3. The 2 that they had the touchdown, and then the 1 that that TJ Watt punched it out just shy of the goal line. Other than that, they only had 3 other drives that were over 10 yards. One of which was the one at the end of the first half, which just to try to set up a Hail Mary, so you can almost throw that out. And the other 2 were 14 yards. I mean, look at some of these total yards and one of them was 14 yards of offense, but 10 yards in penalties. It still wasn't even netted double digits. I mean, here are the drives: 70, 6, 9, 14, 18, 4, 4, 69, -9, 70, and 5. And on that last touchdown drive, my goodness, there were guys out there. I'm like, oh, okay, we got the other 2 outside linebackers in. Good. You don't need to get Moon or Watt out there injured. Oh, there's James Pierre. He's in the secondary. Okay. And they made them take a lot of time to score that touchdown. I mean, they made them take off, when there's only 5 minutes, they get the ball with 8 minutes left of the game and they make them take off 3.5 minutes. When you're up that much, that wasn't the end of the world. So in all, the defense, I wish they could start faster, because it's really, that's 3 games in a row where they started pretty slow.
Yeah. Brian, thoughts on the defense?
I thought the defense played a very good game. Of course, this is the National Football League. There's bend and there's break, and there was no breaking. And you definitely found a defense that was able to bend, but go ahead and, instead of breaking themselves, break the other team when they went ahead and stopped the Raiders. And then next thing you know, they get the penalty, but then you think that they're going to waltz right in and they're punching a ball out, and then they're getting the ball back for the offense at the 10-yard line to go ahead and have some room. So that made me feel so much better. I'm trusting this defense. I'm trusting Minkah Fitzpatrick more than a lot of people are. And that's the thing. Minkah is playing a different game. And I think Deshaun Elliott helps Minkah play a different game to do a lot of dirty work as well. Maybe that's my crutch, saying that the guys that you don't think are performing are doing dirty work, but I really feel they are. Somebody asked about Terrell Edmonds. I saw number 38 out there early. I found him to be doing nothing that is going to excite a lot of people, but doing some things that were clogging things up and helping out. I've seen a lot of people in the live chat say that Wilson was not there early or wasn't there a lot at all. I saw him early on in this game, and I'd love to see the snap count, and I'll check it out after the game. But I thought he was a little bit more visible than a lot of people thought so in that game, unless people were talking about Roman Wilson. But I really think Peyton Wilson, he showed me some things in this game, and it was in the first half. So I'm not sure what people are talking about there. I like the way that this defense is coming together. It's a good mix of young and experienced, and guys like Benton. Benton's going to be a superstar. And I thought we saw a lot of things in this game today that made me very happy and made me feel good going forward.
All right, Dave, let's do some fun. Go ahead.
I'll go say I want one last thing on the defense before the final thoughts.
Sure.
This is one. Now, that first drive, awful. Didn't even get to the third down. But for the game, 2 of 11 on third down is what they held the Raiders to.
Yeah.
That just kind of goes to show what they did in this game.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's do some final thoughts here. Dave, what do you think?
Final thoughts. the Steelers did something today that hasn't been going on too much. They won this game by more points. They had a greater margin of victory in this game than points that they scored in 3 of their other games so far this year, that they won by that many. So yes, it's not like the Steelers were playing the toughest opponent. Yes, it was almost like it was a home game with the crowd, with how much Steelers Nation showed up, which was phenomenal to see. But the bottom line is the Steelers needed to go out there and get the job done against the Raiders and get back to a victory. And they did so, not just enough, not just doing enough, not taking any chances, barely scooting by. They did what they needed to do, and they took the turnovers and turned them into points more than they didn't. And that includes the blocked field goal. I think in all, because they went for 2 and didn't get it, I think it was 16 points off of turnovers if you include I said field goal, the blocked punt in there as well, which is a really good thing. Yeah, there was some questionable things. You can look back on any game, and even one where the Steelers win it by 19 points and say, wow, if this or this didn't go their way, that could have been a completely different outcome. Well, we could have said the exact same thing the last 2 losses. If you can even take one play, for example, last week and say that things didn't go that way, if it would have gone the Steelers' way, it would have been a win instead of a loss. That's the way it works. That's how it goes. All you can do is go out there and give your team a better chance of winning by holding a bigger lead. This was a good one today. I was really happy with this one. Just brings back memories because the first game, it was only 2, but the first game I ever went to with my mom was against the Raiders back in 2015. So it was kind of always nice to get a win against the Raiders, just with all the history and everything else otherwise. But hey, the Steelers, I don't think they're going to sit back and feel great about this win. I think they're going to work on the things they need to work on. I think they need to be more accurate with their passing. I think they need to start better with defense. And you know what? They have a chance to do that because next week they'll have another opportunity against a new opponent, this time in Pittsburgh.
All right. Well said. Brian, final thoughts.
I said earlier on this week that this was a crucial game for the Steelers, and a lot of people thought, how can you say that about a team that has only played 5 games? But when I say that 4-2 is a whole lot different than 3-3, especially when this team started off 3-0, it's absolutely paramount that this team goes out and wins. Now, some people called it a get-right game. We asked that question on the preview the other day, whether this was a get-right game or not. I don't think it's a get-right game. I thought it was a get-established game. And I think the Steelers established themselves as a threat today. I don't care who the opponent is, how strong the opponent is. The fact that you went out and won by 19 points and pretty much dominated the second half of this game, great teams get breaks. And the Steelers got some breaks today. But those breaks they weren't breaks that help them escape the game. They didn't escape with a win. They won emphatically. So I feel good about this team playing teams like the Giants and Jets. If you can get through those 2 games at home in prime time, then you're looking at 6-2. And then you're going into what we thought was going to be the rough part of the schedule. But that rough part of the schedule now has teams that are underachieving. So this is a team that got established today, not to the rest of the National Football League, but in their own locker room. They feel probably a whole lot better about themselves, and they are a much better team after winning this game and showing themselves what they can do. Are professionals supposed to just go in and know they're going to win every single week? Yes. They don't do it every single week, though. But this team, with this win, especially with some of those young players, know what they can do when they go on the road and they have a performance like this. And we always complained about Mike Tomlin teams in the past going on the road or not beating or just escaping against teams that they're supposed to beat handily. They beat a team handily today. I'm celebrating it. I'm loving it. And this is a team, Pittsburgh.
All right, so my final thoughts are pretty simple. After the week 2 win over the Denver Broncos, I asked on my Let's Ride podcast if you as a fan care about how the team wins. And I said that if you're someone that says, no, I don't care how they win, I just want them to win, then guess what? You can never really complain about a victory or them not maybe playing up to your standard. I've also said that you can have as high a standard as you want, and you can absolutely care about how the Steelers go about their business. But I'm going to say this. I've learned to just enjoy the victories. And there are times when we've seen it. Look at last season with the 3-game stretch where they lose to the Colts, Cardinals, and Patriots, all in a 10-day span, I think. Those are some really tough times. The 2 a.m., 1:30 a.m., Dave and Jeff doing the post-game show after that gut-wrenching loss to the Cowboys. Those games suck. I will take an ugly-ish win or an ugly win, whatever you want to dub it, any day of the week, and again, twice on Sunday, because wins are rare in the National Football League. Ask the Cleveland Browns. The Bengals are still looking up at the other 2 teams in the AFC North. It could be a lot worse. The Steelers are winning games, and my only recommendation is enjoy the hell out of these wins, because we don't know when the next one's going to come with this freaking team. So that's where I'm going to leave it. All right, make sure you check out steelcurtainnetwork.com. We are excited about a new website coming at the end of the month, maybe at the beginning of November. We are very proud of the content we're putting out there, so make sure you check out steelcurtainnetwork.com. And I also urge you to check out all of our podcasts, not just this post-game show. Make sure you check out tomorrow morning's Let's Ride podcast. You can only hear that on our audio-only feeds. Wherever you get your podcast, find it there. At tomorrow at 11 o'clock, you'll hear Bryan Davis and Coach KT Smith on the Here We Go show. Make sure you check out all of our shows. Dave's Pittsburgh Standard Time every Thursday morning with Greg Benjamin. Great stuff. Always on the audio only, as well as sometimes on the YouTube. Check us out in all those locations. But guys, been a fantastic show. The Steelers win. Enjoy the week, everyone. We'll be back next week for a really late post-game show. We'll see you next time.
Steel Curtain Network. Get it.
Everybody else gets a little tight.